ranking every championship club in terms of where I believe their ceiling is. We've got a few criteria I'll get to in 2 seconds time, so let's get into the video. Yes, lads, welcome back to the channel. As I said, we are going to be ranking the championship clubs in terms of their ceilings. Now, of course, we've backed the tier list out again. I absolutely love making these. Genuinely, I love making these. And if you haven't seen my previous two, thank you so much, especially ranking the rivalries and derbies. You guys, there's so many people that ended up watching it. It's like my first video that's really sort of done very well. So I'm very, very appreciative. And, just appreciate all the comments. Everyone was actually all right, Everyone was pretty sound. There were no comments saying I don't know ball. Well, there was a couple. There's always going to be a couple. But overall, I think I got it quite right. So thank you very much if you have watched that. Now, in regards to today's, we've got a few categories. So let me just explain the categories first. We've got European football, a team that can break into that European plays, Conference League and above. A solid Premier League side. We're talking like a Crystal Palace level. Do you know what I mean? Like just that team that isn't going to get relegated, stays mid-table. We've then got Yo-Yo Club. I'm looking at you, Norwich City. But we've got a Yo-Yo Club, and that is, as it says, a team that goes up, comes down, but I'll get into that in a second. Championship staple, just always going to be around, Just a championship level team, no more, no less. That's probably going to be the most popular category, if I'm going to be honest. Then we've got League One bound. Now, these are the clubs that are just, League One, calling its name, very close. And once they go down, I don't think they're going to be able to come back up for various different reasons. So, obviously, a few of these teams that I put in these different categories, you might say, wow, well, you never know if... But this is what we're going off right now. I'm going off the facts of what is happening today. So that. And then we've also got out of the EFL, and that is a Morecambe. Not necessarily, maybe a Bury, but like that sort of vibe. A team that falls so far, Yeovil, that they just go down, and once you're down, it needs a massive change to get yourself back into the Football League. So that is that category there. Now, in terms of criteria, let's get into that. So I'm going to look at each team in terms of infrastructure, so stadium, average attendances will come into this as well, and also just how much room there is to develop the stadium / the training ground, etc. We're also going to look at the financial side, so how well backed are they, what's the ownership like? I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all of the financial stuff, but it interests me. There's a couple of good guys to follow on Twitter to really keep up to date with this, so we're going to look at that. We're also going to look at, of course, the history. If a team does have good history, I know we said we're talking about right now, but ultimately that does feed into it, probably a lower side of the criteria. And then finally, of course, it's the manager, the staff, the squad, the academy, all of the sort of assets put into one. How well can this club go? So up first then, we've got Millwall, and I think Millwall are going to sit in championship staple. And the reason why they're not maybe a yo-yo club or a solid Premier League side, infrastructure-wise, the Den, I think it's about 20k, give or take, which is decent, and they could probably expand on that should they want to. But I just have a feeling that when I look at Millwall, they're just a championship side. Academy-wise, they get a few good players through, but they sell them. So they're almost like this, like nearly there. Nearly into that bracket of a yo-yo club, and they're definitely doing very, very well with the set of players they've got. But ultimately, the best players, Femi Aziz, if they don't go up, he's getting sold. Tristan Kramer, getting sold. The list goes on. Alex Neil, probably going to get poached somewhere else. He's done a fantastic job. So I just feel as though they're unable to make that step. There's a lot of London clubs around. One of those things that's very hard to grow the fan base. So they're going to sit in championship staple. And moving on, Preston are also going to sit in championship staple. I think them and Bristol City, and I believe QPR, they've been the three longest, or it's Preston and Bristol City that are there, and then Crystal Palace, Queen's Park Rangers just slightly behind. So they are already championship staple on the tin, similar to Millwall, decent sized stadium, nothing too crazy. Academy wise, they bring through a couple, but not enough to sort of be like, right, we're going to get a golden generation, and that's going to just pump us in to the Premier League. So there's that there. It's a very sustainable club, similar to Millwall, a good model in that sense. So it just doesn't give me enough to to say that they would be a yo-yo club or a Premier League club. I just think Championship staple is fair. So then Oxford, now they are going to be the first club that are in League One bound, and I do like what Oxford are doing, and I think they got the recruitment spot on with so many decent players, but it ultimately just wasn't quite enough to keep them as a Championship staple. Once those players leave, I can't envision them doing it again. I look at the infrastructure in terms of the stadium, 12,500 is what it holds. Again, even if there are plans for developments, it just doesn't strike me as a club that's going to sustain itself as it stands currently as a Championship staple. And I think League One, once they go down, they might be, I probably should have put yo-yo club for League One and Championship. And that's where Oxford would be. The classic Rotherham model where you just go down and back up, down and back up. But look at Rotherham now, it's not sustainable. So that's why I think they're just, League One bound, and League One is where they're going to stay ultimately. Now then, Bristol City, they are also going to sit in Championship staple. The Bristol Preston, very, 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 very similar in terms of clubs. I would argue that Bristol, of course, probably edged them. And in terms of the academy, I feel as though Bristol City do actually have a decent academy where good players come through. Words are failing me, but good players can come through. And so I think with that, they can definitely generate those good players, but the owner doesn't seem to really invest too much in the actual squad and players, not an amount that makes me think, yes, they're going to go for it. They're going to do it. Bristol, of course, a great city, certainly room to develop. And definitely in that sense, Bristol as a city, yeah, you could certainly argue that they could move up to solid Premier League. And, for a size of a city that Bristol is, you'd imagine that is the case. Of course, they share it with Rovers, but I just don't know. I just feel as though they are a Championship staple, and as things stay at the moment, that's as far as they can go. New ownership or new investment and money being spent, drive a bit more revenue. You never know. But that is not happening at the moment, and the academy players get sold, so we have to go with where it is. Now then, Norwich City, we mentioned them in the intro. They just are a yo-yo club, aren't they? And the weird thing is they actually get the recruitment very good for the Championship, but it never really transpires to the Premier League. And obviously they've had some players that certainly can play Premier League level, but it never quite happens at Norwich. That is the issue. In terms of the academy, very good academy, Category 1 academy. So effectively, they're going to get players through the academy, get promoted, sell the players, and then come back down. And that is just rinse and repeat. Norwich, the most famous case of the yo-yo club. So they are just, of course they're going to sit in the yo-yo club. You think I'm making this list without Norwich sat in the yo-yo club? You're crazy. Now then, Portsmouth. So they're going to sit in Championship staple. Now, the thing with Portsmouth is I feel as though as things stand at the moment, it could be more of a case of League One's calling. But obviously, there's been a bit of an ownership change and they're investing in the right way. The academy, I believe, I read when I was doing my research, they've put a lot of money into developing the young players. So it's one of those where I'll keep them as Championship staple, because remember, this is the ceiling, and the trajectory of where they're going would tell me that they're going to be a Championship club for a while. Even if they do go down this year, I still feel they've got the capabilities to bounce back up. But you never know. But obviously, Portsmouth, a bigger club than Oxford, a massive footballing city in terms of, the fan base, the passion. It's Pompey versus Saints, do you know what I mean? Like that drives it in itself. But effectively, I can't put them any higher than where they are right now, because even though they are going the right way, they're not necessarily there. And they're, look at the league form. They're not necessarily showing the signs of a team that are going to get there too soon. So I think certainly one to keep an eye out, though. If I had a wild card amongst this list to go on to become a solid Premier League side, I'd be probably looking at Portsmouth. Now then, Queen's Park Rangers, again, Championship staple, similar to Preston, Bristol City. They've been there for that long now. I mean, you've got Loftus Road, decent ground, not a Premier League level ground. The way that it's going now, the revenue that you've got to drive, you're looking at Chelsea wanting to build new stadiums, Villa wanting to redevelop Villa Park and make the attendances bigger. And that's because you need the revenue to compete in this league. And that is why you'll go up and see Burnley, who have really struggled, whereas Sunderland and Leeds, they haven't. And they're bigger clubs that have gone for it. And I think that is what's going to be one of the big factors as to what is limiting QPR from going and doing that. The investment in the squad, it is there, and they do make some decent signings, but it's not anywhere near where it needs to be to actually challenge. So I think they could have a few good seasons. They might even get themselves promoted, but they're going to come straight back down, in my opinion, and I just can't see it sustaining. So they're they're a club that have done very well, and a club that, previously in the Premier League, they really gave it a go. Julio Cesar, Jubial Cisse, like really, really like that aspect, but I can't see them repeating that if I'm going to be honest. And I just feel as though they're never anywhere near League One unless things go really south and they get the recruitment wrong, which they don't seem to do. I just think they're just going to stick in that championship. And QPR fans, it might sound a bit bleak, but it's better than going down. You know what I mean? This mid-table finishes. I mean, who knows? Maybe a playoff run at some point. But yeah, a mid-table championship team, that's where I see them. Now then, Charlton. Now, they're also going to fit in a championship staple. Charlton, for me, I really, really like the project because obviously it went very, very south. Of course, they had the Premier League years, then they went down to the Championship and then League One, and it's taken them a very, very long time to get back. But they do have a good core squad with young players, and it is in a sense similar to Oxford, but I just feel as though the infrastructure behind the scenes is good enough for them. I mean, the Valley, great stadium for a Championship club. The Academy has always produced a few good players from it, and I feel as though their development, it's going into the academy, to young players growing for the future. Do I think Nathan Jones is the man to guarantee championship stability? Probably not. I'm not his biggest fan, but at the same time, it's good enough to keep you up, enough time to be able to grow and then stabilise. So I don't necessarily think League One is calling them. I more so see it as they're going to just, mellow out as a championship team, certainly size-wise, big enough to be one, but that is as far as it goes. Now then, Swansea City. They are going to sit in championship staple as well, if you can even see that badge, same as Derby. But yeah, Swansea, such an intriguing one for me. Of course, American ownership has come in. You've got Luka Modric is somehow involved. Snoop Dogg is somehow involved. It's pretty crazy. But that in itself doesn't justify them having success and even becoming a yo-yo club. However, what I will say is in terms of academy and having Welsh sort of talent available, I do feel as though football in Wales has improved, even in the Welsh League. So what you're probably going to see is some good academy players come through for Swansea, as you have with Cardiff, by the way. Cardiff have got some really good young players coming through, and it could propel them. The only issue I'm trying to work out here is, are Swansea going to sell those players to help fund the club? Or will the American investment, will that pump it and they're able to keep those young players? Because if they are, they're going to go into yo-yo club on the verge of maybe a solid Premier League team. They probably don't quite have the stadium to guarantee a solid Premier League side and the infrastructure, but they're certainly within a chance. So we're going to leave them in Championship stable because we don't know necessarily if that is going to be the case. But if it is the case, Swansea, similar to Portsmouth, they're going in the right directions of where you need to go to become that established Premier League side. It's just if and when they will get there. Now then, Stoke City. This is a difficult one because my head is saying that they are a Championship staple. And obviously, we've got to go off what's currently available to us. Now, Stoke spend a lot of money. They had a big investment this year, which is going to allow them to continue spending money. They've got a 30,000 plus seater stadium. Mark Robins as the manager, that is a weakness for me. I said it at the start of the season. I don't necessarily think Mark Robins is the guy that takes you to the Premier League. We saw it with Coventry City. It didn't quite work out. So I don't know if they're better off going and getting a younger manager who's maybe like a Tonda Eckert. Phone call coming in, scam call, we all get them. If you get the scam calls, honestly, I feel like they harass me. It was my bad. I answered a couple of them. Do you know what I mean? Just trying to egg them on a little bit. Yeah, mate, of course. Yeah, I've had a car accident. Yeah. They just harass me now. But anyway, like a Tonda Eckert, for example, or a Kim Halbrand, someone like that to drive the project forward because it is a good project. And I do really think Stoke have legs. So it's so difficult. Do you know what? I'm going to make the executive decision to put them as a yo-yo club. I don't necessarily think currently you can justify them, getting to a solid Premier League team. But if a couple of things change, maybe, just maybe, they could go on and do that. So right now, I think a yo-yo club because Mark Robins is currently the manager, may get sacked, may get let go. If they get the investment right, if they spend the money on the right players, which I have to say they've probably spent them on the wrong players to get them to where they want to go. If they do that, they can become a yo-yo club. So I guess we're relying on the recruitment and the manager may be changing, so therefore they've got to be a championship staple, haven't they? They've got to be, because we don't know if that's going to be the case, that they're going to get the recruitment right and they're going to get the manager right. So we'll leave them there, but another club with serious potential to really go up. And like we know, we grew up with Rory Delap and Tony Pulis, get themselves back in the Premier League and do some good things. Now then, Watford. Now, Watford are going to go into Yo-Yo Club. And where we talk about where they can go, obviously the Pozzo family are the owners, and their model is get a manager in, get promoted, bank the cash, invest in the squad, buy cheap players that are going to have high value in the future, rinse and repeat. We just haven't necessarily seen Watford for a little while now make that jump to the Premier League. Now, I actually thought this season was a real chance for them to go and do that. Not automatically, but going up via the playoffs. Obviously, in terms of who they got in, I believe, was it Pezzolano they got in at the start of the season? And from what you saw from him, it looked like it was going to be a really sure thing. Obviously, not the case. But the squad itself, the investments that they do make, I like a lot. There's a lot of good young players there. As soon as they get the manager right, I think we'll see Watford back in the Premier League. I really, really do. And they are just a yo-yo club. That is as far as they can go. Where I look at Stoke and say there's potential to go solid Premier League, never with Watford. Absolutely never. Their max ceiling is yo-yo club, and they've got the infrastructure, they've got the ownership that are willing to take the risk, get the manager in just to go up. So I think they do sit in yo-yo club. So then, Derby County. Now, Derby are also going to sit, if you can see that, in Yo-Yo Club. And the reason being is because when I said, for example, the likes of Charlton and maybe the likes of Portsmouth and Swansea that are in the right direction and might get there, but we have to go off what's currently going on, I actually see Derby as a team that are already taking a big stride to get there. The way that they invest, the squad that they seem to build. Obviously, there's a lot to like about Derby, and I'm a big fan of what is going on there. And I just feel as though with a decent stadium in Pride Park, that they're just going to become a yo-yo club. And I think as soon as they have a decent run, they're so close to getting a squad together that can really go on and push and challenge. And when that happens, they'll get promoted, bank the cash, they'll come straight back down, hopefully with more points than they left the Premier League. You know, with last time, what was it? 8 points, 11 points, I actually forget what it was. But ultimately, that is where I see them going. And I think they will get there. I really, really do. They're a big club, you know, a very decent sized club in terms of the Championship, and could certainly make the jump. Never see them becoming a solid Premier League team as things stand, but certainly going up, coming down, going up, coming down. I can just see it happening. One of those ones where it might not make sense to people, but it's just the hunch I have. I just see it for Derby. You know, similar to a Watford, the model is very much, we can get promoted. Can we stay there? Absolutely not. Now then, Coventry City. They're a yo-yo club. Now, obviously, Coventry are going to get promoted up to the Premier League now. Now, why couldn't Coventry become a solid Premier League team? Is it the stadium and the infrastructure? No, it's not. I mean, the training ground needed work. I think the owner, Doug King, has put that work into the training ground, which helps the facilities. But ultimately, I don't think they have the financial power to stay as a Premier League team. I mean, Doug King is not the man to take you forward to become a solid Premier League team. It's just, he doesn't have the money to do it. Coventry would need investment. Investment that at this moment of time, I don't know if it's coming. If they get the investment, they can certainly become a solid Premier League team. But as I say, I just don't know if it's coming. Doug King, will he sell? There's still links of him to Sisu. Everything about it is just a bit, you know, it's not strange. I actually rate him. I think he's done some good stuff for Coventry, but it is just a little bit, I don't know, a little bit strange. Not everything adds up when I look at Doug King and his ownership of Coventry. And, you know, in terms of how far he can take them, even with a great manager like Frank Lampard, it's not a solid Premier League team. It's just not. Now, look at players like Gustavo Hamer and Victor Gyökeres. You know, you're probably going to see it now with Van Evik. I know they don't own Carl Rushworth, but they're players that Coventry are very good at developing to sell on for more money. Hadji Wright, maybe another one. So they definitely have the capabilities to come down, go back up, come down, go back up. But I don't see them really, really pushing and becoming that solid Premier League team. If an ownership change happens, as I say, they 100% can do that. It's just, as of right now, it's just not there. And the academy, when was the last time a Coventry City academy player came through and did some good things? You're looking at James Maddison, Callum Wilson. I mean, there's a few other players, like, for example, Jeremy Monga. He did come from Coventry's academy before going to Leicester. But again, he never came through the academy. He was poached. So when does the academy make more players? Again, that's not going to be a revenue stream for them as well. So I like Coventry. I like what they're doing, but ultimately, Yo-Yo Club is as far as it goes right now. West Brom. They're going to go in Championship staple. Now, West Brom should realistically be anywhere between solid Premier League side and Yo-Yo Club. That is the level of the club, in my opinion. The history, the infrastructure, its ownership. The ownership completely lets it down. And that's why it has to stay in Championship staple. If West Brom get new ownership or new investment, then 100% West Brom will become at least a Yo-Yo Club. At least a Yo-Yo Club. So it can happen for West Brom. But they're actually, with the current ownership in the way it is, look at how bad this season's been. It's been closer to League One is calling. It really, really has. But I think they will recover. They will bounce back if they give a new manager after James Morrison a bit more time, a full season to get things right. Ryan Mason, as an example, it was an interesting hire. And he would never have got them relegated, in my opinion. He never would have. And Eric Ramsey came in. Again, an interesting hire, but again, it just didn't quite work out. So I think give a manager a full season, go and get a ambitious signing in terms of manager, or go and get someone who's more of maybe a League One manager who's done very, very well. I don't think you'd get Michael Scabala with how things are going at Lincoln, but as an example. So West Brom have to stay Championship staple, but as I say, with new ownership, they can push on, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. And the funds, the resources, they're so limited under the current regime. Is that the right word? The current regime. We'll go with it. Middlesbrough up next. Under Steve Gibson's ownership, they're a Championship staple. And the collapse that we've seen from Middlesbrough in terms of this season may be a little bit testament to that as well. So obviously, good academy, good players come through. Look at Hayden Hackney. But ultimately, the model is to sell him on, isn't it? That is the model. I mean, you can look at Morgan Rogers. He's not quite academy signed from Man City. He went from Middlesbrough to Villa. A good deal, but that is what they do. They're never going to be able to hold on to players. I'm so shocked they've held on to Hayden Hackney for as long as they have. But players like Malanda, they're also going to go, in my opinion. This was the real chance. This season was a humongous chance to go up and maybe change the narrative. But I now don't think they will go up. They're definitely not getting automatic promotion, in my opinion. And I just think that, in terms of the playoffs, I'm looking at Southampton. They're the favourites, aren't they, really? Even Millwall looking very solid. Beat them the other day as well. So in terms of this season, it's not quite worked out. Now, in terms of the ceiling, I just think Steve Gibson's model, get players in, sell them on. He's been around for a while. He's not going to magically start putting I think he's actually been the longest, in terms of ownership. But he's not going to magically start putting funds into the club that they've never seen before. It's a shame for Middlesbrough, but as things stand, they have to be a Championship staple. The whole model is designed to stay in the Championship. Now then, Hull City. Now, Hull City is a strange one because it can sit there, it can sit there, and it could arguably sit there. And where is it going to sit? I'm going to sit on the fence a little bit and stay in the middle. And it's obviously all down to ownership. A great, decent stadium, definitely good enough to make the jump to the Premier League at some point and not be a solid Premier League team, but become a yo-yo club. But at the same time, the ownership is almost a downfall. I mean, look back to when they had Carvalho on loan from Liverpool and they had that great team, never quite went up. And then they dwindled a little bit. And then this season, you're looking at them thinking, right, League One is calling. They're League One bound. See you later, lads. And once they go down, oh my word, I think they're going to struggle so much. And then all of a sudden, Sergej Jarakovic has this amazing season. Ollie McBurney hits his prime form. Joe Geldhart turns into a machine. And you just think, hang on a second, now they're in the playoffs. Who knows what could happen? So they're a very interesting squad, a very interesting ownership, similar to Watford, but I just think that Watford's model is a little bit more sustainable than Hull's. And of course, we've got transfer embargoes. What I'm trying to say is for Hull, it could go drastically wrong, and they will be in League One. Whereas Watford, I can't quite see them dropping down to League One. They're more of a Championship squad. But yeah, Hull, very, very interesting to see what does happen. Under the current ownership, it would be crazy to suggest anything higher than Championship staple because it's just not a very well-run football club. But at the same time, I feel like you can just never rule them out. But yeah, we'll keep them at Championship staple. Now then, Blackburn Rovers. They are going to be the next team to sit in League One. Now, it's a little bit more somber, this one. Obviously, the Venkies owning this club, running it into the ground, in my opinion. And I think they've done so well to actually hold on and stay a Championship side. But as soon as they go down, I just think that is going to be where they are. I mean, look at maybe like a Bolton and a Wigan. Similar to that, I know Bolton might have a chance of coming up this year, but I feel as though it turns into like a yo-yo Championship club. It needs new owners. 100% it needs new owners. And obviously in terms of the academy as well, that has been neglected. There's been a few years now where that is just going to start, dropping in comparison to where the other clubs who are invested in the future, where their academies lie. So for Blackburn, it's a very sad state of affairs. And I really, really hope new ownership comes in, because look at Ewood Park, 30,000+ in terms of where it can be. And look, 30 years ago, they'd won the Premier League. So it is a club that certainly can get back up there. And I'd love to see it as well. I'd love to see Blackburn do a bit of a Coventry City, of a Leicester City, well, maybe not Leicester City because it's all gone, but like a Sunderland. And really, if they are going to go down to League One, and it's inevitable, it feels like, they are definitely going to at some point go down under the current ownership, but bounce back and do some great things, get back up to the Premier League, get the academy thriving once again. Because Blackburn, to me, they're a staple of English football, just completely let down by poor ownership. And it's probably one of the saddest stories. Well, I probably can't say that with Sheffield Wednesday in this literal video, but you know what I mean? It's a very, very sad state of affairs. Now then, what a contrast, because Southampton up next, and they are going to be the first club in solid Premier League side. Now, basically the same size stadium as Blackburn. And in terms of history, a very decent, big club. Academy-wise, though, Southampton, one of the best in the country, probably where Blackburn should be. In terms of Lancashire, that's, Blackburn should be the pinnacle point of it. It really, really should. And it's not the case. But Southampton, certainly a side that, in my opinion, can get back to that status and replace like a Fulham, for example, and get themselves back in that mid-tier of the Premier League, occasionally going for a push. Think back to the Adam Lallana, Ricky Lambert, all of those good times they had not too long ago. But, when, oh my God, when the player's in your head and I can't think of his name, the Portuguese centre attacking midfielder. Right. Let me know in the comments. If you can remember this guy's name, let me know in the comment. It's not Jose Fonts, the centre back. What is it? Right. Let me know in the comments, but those times. Anyway, so Southampton for me, they can definitely make the jump. And I feel as though it's a matter of time when they get a good manager at the club, which I thought Will Still was going to be, by the way. But a good manager in Tonda Eckert, for example, get themselves back up. Look at how they did against Arsenal. Look at the atmosphere, the feeling, everything about it. Look at the players they've generated. Look at the players they've got through the academy. I'm not sure what word it is. Nurtured through the academy, maybe. Look at those players. Look at the players that will continue to come through. Tyler Dibbling, maybe the most, latest example. Jay Robinson. They aren't going anywhere. Solid Premier League team. And I actually think they're going to get there as well. Right then, Ipswich. They're going to join Southampton in solid Premier League side. And I think this is going to be the case. So my frustration with Ipswich was when they went up to the Premier League, it just felt as though they just decided to sign a good Championship team, see if it kept them up with a great manager in Kieran McKenna. I'm a big fan. But to sign a good Championship team, see if it keeps them up. It didn't. Now they've come back down. They've got the best squad in the league on paper. And they're going to go back up. And now that might make you think, well, surely they're a yo-yo club then. They're going to sit in that middle. No. The reason why it's not is because, one, they've got some great investment in the club, and I think they really, really do. But two, at the same time, they've now got the base. Remember, they came up from League One and got promoted straight away. So they had to do that season of rebuilding, making sure the core of the squad is good enough. Now, when they go up, I think they'll make some good signings. And I think that realistically, the money that they'll spend, it will be enough to keep them in the Premier League. And that's all you've got to do. You just got to survive one season in the Premier League. I think they've got the manager, the core of the squad, the stadium, infrastructure, back in. Every box seems to be ticked. So I'd be mad to say that they couldn't go on and become a Premier League staple. Look at Brentford, Bournemouth. Go and replace them. I think it's very difficult to do because they're very, very well-established sides now, but Ipswich can certainly do the same thing. Up next is Sheffield United, and they are also going to sit in the solid Premier League side. Now, again, very similar to Ipswich and Southampton. I think the core of it is there. They have good investment. They've got a decent manager in Chris Wilder, but they're always going to be able to attract another good manager. And I think once they go up, I could see them staying there for good. Now, this is Ceiling, remember. This isn't me necessarily saying that at some point in the next 5 years, these three clubs will be there. And Sheffield United, out of the three clubs in this list, I would argue that they're a little bit more, could fall down to Yo-Yo Club. They probably are in between. If you could put them in the middle of solid Premier League and Yo-Yo Club. But obviously, we're just going to go for it. And I'm going to back it. And I'm going to say that Sheffield United do have everything in place, fan base, etc., to get there. So as things stand right now, with the way they invest, I think they could. I genuinely do. So they're going to sit in solid Premier League. But as I say, an in-between of that and Yo-Yo. Now then, Sheffield Wednesday, you've probably guessed, we had to make out the EFL for them. If this was a League 2 or even a League 1 video, you'd maybe say, out the EFL, I can see that happening. But ultimately, none of these clubs are going to fall out the EFL, are they? Apart from Sheffield Wednesday. And I really, really hope I'm wrong here. Chansiri is running this club into the ground. Points deductions, you've got staff not getting paid, players not getting paid. And we've seen this before, but we haven't seen it on as big of a level as we have with Sheffield Wednesday in terms of their club size. Now, obviously going to go down to League 1. Could go straight down to League 2. And when you're in League 2, I don't care how big you are. I don't care what you've done in the past, what you've done. It doesn't matter. It just does not matter. League 2 takes clubs' souls. It will send you down unforgivingly. And once you're back in the non-league, where do you go from there? And I really feel as though, and obviously they may get taken over next season and someone may buy them a massive, because the 40,000 seater stadium, they're a sleeping giant. And if someone does buy them, of course, this is now out of date and it doesn't make sense. But as things stand at the moment, how could I not say that they're going to go out the EFL? You just have to look at the facts. And any Sheffield Wednesday fans watching this, I'm intrigued. What do you think is going to happen? Do you see it going as bad as that under Chansiri? Or do you maybe see yourself stabilise in League 1, League 2 and eventually hopefully get taken over, bounce back? I don't know. I would love Sheffield Wednesday to get back to the Premier League alongside Sheffield United. Have the Sheffield derby in the Premier League. That would be fantastic. We're a million miles away. I'd say arguably it's closer to having Sheffield Wednesday playing non-league football than it is to have them both in the Premier League. And that is a shocking statement that should never be said. But that's the situation we find ourselves in. Now then, Leicester. This is a very, very interesting one because I'm going to say League 1 bound. Now, obviously, infrastructure, academy-wise, this seems insane. And realistically, you could argue with the infrastructure and the academy, and they'd go in European football. But as things stand at the moment, in terms of ownership and in terms of the general feel of the club, I have a bad feeling Leicester City are going to go down and they're going to stay there. And I just think that, look at Birmingham when they went down. Leicester's different. Leicester is just different. I feel as though they're going to get stuck. Now, if things change, and it could also change under the current ownership. I'm not going to completely bash it, but if things change, they go back to Championship staple and they can build from there. But as far as things are right now, I just think they are League 1 bound, and I think they're going to stay there and they're going to get stuck there, and they're going to be one of these clubs where we look back and say, how the hell did this happen? They've had it before. Could they bounce back? I don't know. Now then, Birmingham City. Now I'm going to put them in League 1 bound as well. Now, the reason, do you know what? If there's a Birmingham fan watching and that's rattled you, good. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to put them there, aren't I? And this is me trying to be completely unbiased. Okay, so for every Birmingham fans that sees my TikToks and my YouTube shorts and comments that I'm so biased, look where I've put you. Look at where I've put you above. This is where you sit. Now, as much as it annoys me that this is the case, how can I ignore what's going on? They spend a lot of money. They've got a good stadium. They're on about building a friggin' Super Bowl sort of stadium, 60,000 seater. If they get that revenue-wise, financially, they're going to be there. They are going to become a solid Premier League team. But ultimately, the ownership is, I like it. I actually do like it. I think that they are investing. Tom Brady is a winner. Not that that correlates Because look at this season. This season's not gone very well. They're gonna have to get rid of Davis. They're gonna have to get someone better in. The pull that they'll have is going to be absolutely huge. Maybe, just maybe, I'm looking at maybe like a Steven Gerrard type manager. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people would say Steven Gerrard. Don't want him. I think he'd do well, of course. Maybe with the Villa links, he wouldn't go, but it doesn't matter. Birmingham City, in the next 5 to 10 years, will become a solid Premier League club. And if they do get this new stadium, there is a chance they could push to European football, but you best believe I'd rather. And now this is me. I said I wasn't biased, but there's not a chance I'm putting them in European football. Because guess who that replaces? Villa. And I'm not doing it. Now then, Wrexham. Where are they going to sit? And you know, there's one spot that hasn't got any club in, and that is European football. And that to me is Wrexham and where they're going. Do I think they'll necessarily get there? Maybe. I think there is a real chance. And we're talking Conference League and above, but you just can't ignore them. Ownership-wise, obviously Rob I can't say the geezer's name, but you know what I mean, and Ryan Reynolds. Now, these two have really built something. The fan base they have in America, the fan base they have in the UK, the love that they get from the majority of UK casuals, I'll call it. Majority of football fans can't stand them. For me personally, and now bear in mind, I don't support an EFL club, so this might be different for me because you guys have all had to suffer with them coming up the leagues and I haven't. But when I look at Wrexham, I love what's going on. I think that fair play to them, they're spending a lot of money, they're developing the stadium and they will keep continuing to do so and they will fill it. 100% they will fill it no matter how big it gets. And the documentaries, the American appeal, everything around them is just a club that is not slowing down. Look at this season. I predicted they'd finish in the bottom half, 15th, 16th, I believe, because I thought, well, look, it's going to have to stop at some point, isn't it? Stop lying to yourselves, except that is the way it is. Wrexham cannot be stopped. And this is the reason why. European football, it will take them some time, don't get me wrong, but the rise from non-league to no, not quite the Champions League, but we'll say the Conference League could genuinely happen. As soon as they become an established Premier League team, the money will keep coming in, the signings. Everyone wants to play for Wrexham. Everyone wants to be part of the story. That in itself gives you such a pull to go and get anyone. So I really think Wrexham, out of all the 24 Championship teams right now, have the highest ceiling, with Sheffield Wednesday, of course, unfortunately, having the lowest. So that is the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, if I've got any right or wrong, where you think club ceiling should be. I'm very intrigued to know, because as much as this is all about your opinion and where you think these clubs are going to go, I also think I like to hear from the actual people that watch the clubs day in, day out, know the infrastructure, financials probably far better than I do. So let me know in the comments, but don't just say, oh, we should be higher. Let me know why you should be higher, because I really like going back and forth. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do hit a like, drop a comment, hit that subscribe button. It means so much to me. And we're just getting started, we're just getting started. I've got so much more content to come now, all the way over the summer. So if you want to see a video, let me know. If you want me to rank certain things, let me know. And if you want to see this for League 1, League 2, let me know. So lads, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.